new spot market for XRP just appeared on Hyperliquid. But the asset trading there isn't native XRP, it's FXRP. That might sound like a small technical detail. It isn't, because this is exactly how institutional finance actually works. Assets don't migrate. Ledgers don't get replaced. Instead, execution happens in one place, settlement stays somewhere else, and risk gets pushed to the seams. What you're seeing here isn't XRP going DeFi. You're seeing the emergence of a boundary layer, one that lets XRP reach professional trading venues without leaving the XRP ledger. And once you understand that pattern, a lot of the noise around crypto infrastructure starts to fall away. A simple headline hides a deeper structural shift. Flare helped bring an XRP spot market to Hyperliquid, starting with an FXRP to USDC pair. On the surface, that sounds like just another DeFi integration. Underneath, it exposes a gap between how crypto narratives are framed and how real financial systems are built. Most crypto discussions assume blockchains are monolithic. If an asset goes to DeFi, people assume the base ledger changed or the ecosystem migrated. Institutions don't operate that way. They separate functions. Execution happens in one place. Custody sits somewhere else. Settlement finality lives on a system designed specifically for it. So the real question isn't whether this is bullish or bearish. The question is, what kind of bridge is being built here, why it exists, and what it tells us about where liquidity is actually going to live. In this video, we'll break down what changed, what FXRP is at a practical level, how the flow is designed to work, and where the risk really sits. Then we'll zoom out and ask what this actually changes in the real world. Everything here is for educational and entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. If clear, no hype crypto education helps you make sense of all this. Hit like and subscribe. It tells YouTube this series is worth showing to other newcomers, and it helps me keep building it for you. The key change is simple but important. Hyperliquid now supports spot trading tied to XRP, using FXRP as the traded asset. That matters because spot trading is not a vibe or a narrative. It's a market structure. Spot markets involve the asset itself, not just price exposure through derivatives. That difference shows up in how traders use the venue, how inventory behaves, and how liquidity connects to the rest of the system. Spot is where balances, transfers, and withdrawals start to matter. Before this, exposure to XRP on Hyperliquid was limited to derivative-style instruments. Now, there is a direct spot market, even though the underlying XRP does not live on Hyperliquid itself. That apparent contradiction is the point. It shows how execution access can be extended without moving the base settlement layer. FXRP is part of Flare's F-Assets system. The idea behind F-Assets is to allow assets that originate on ledgers without native smart contract environments to be used in other ecosystems, while applying defined economic constraints to manage risk. Crypto has done this before through wrapped assets, often backed by centralized custodians. That model works, but it concentrates trust in a single entity. Flare's approach pushes the trust model toward over-collateralization and defined roles instead. In this design, FXRP is minted against collateral provided by agents within the system. The collateral is intended to exceed the value of the FXRP issued, creating a buffer against volatility and failure. You don't need the mechanics memorized to understand the takeaway. FXRP is designed to represent XRP in execution environments, while keeping the XRP ledger as the canonical origin of the asset. That's the structural shift. The base ledger doesn't have to become a smart contract platform to participate in new venues. A boundary layer does the work. This is where confusion usually sets in, so let's make the flow concrete. XRP originates on the XRP ledger. Through Flare's F-Assets system, FXRP can be created under the system's collateral constraints. That FXRP can then be bridged into Hyperliquid and traded on a spot market against USDC. Flare's own framing emphasizes that this is not meant to be a one-way migration. The intended design is for users to move into an execution venue, trade, and then move back, with the base ledger remaining stable and unchanged. This mirrors traditional finance more closely than most crypto narratives admit. Execution venues specialize in matching and liquidity. Custody and settlement are handled elsewhere. The interfaces between them are engineered, monitored, and constrained. Crypto is steadily converging on that structure, not because it's fashionable, but because it scales. Whenever portability increases, risk doesn't disappear. It relocates. In this case, risk shifts into the boundary layer. There is operational risk in the agent model. There is systemic risk in how collateral requirements are enforced. There is infrastructure risk in bridging across environments. And there is market risk in how liquidity behaves under stress. Over-collateralization reduces some failure modes, but it doesn't eliminate them. Institutions understand this instinctively. They don't ask whether a system is safe in the abstract. They ask where losses occur, who absorbs them, and how failures propagate. That's the correct lens here. FXRP isn't about removing risk. It's about redefining where risk sits in exchange for access to better execution. The real-world impact is subtle but meaningful. XRP-linked liquidity can now participate in a professional execution environment without forcing changes to the XRP ledger itself. That expands where and how the asset can be traded in practice. It also reinforces a broader architectural pattern. Assets will increasingly move across environments designed for different functions. One system for origin and settlement, another for composability, another for high-performance execution. Stable units, like USDC or regulated stablecoins, act as the quoting and routing layer inside those venues. This isn't interoperability as a slogan. It's interoperability as a working flow, with visible constraints and measurable trade-offs. When you zoom out, this story isn't really about Flare or Hyperliquid. It's about how markets are being rebuilt. Early crypto imagined a world where one chain could do everything. Institutional finance has always separated functions and controlled the seams between them. FXRP spot trading on Hyperliquid is a small but clear signal that crypto market structure is drifting toward that institutional model. Execution and settlement are being unbundled, then reconnected through engineered boundary layers. The narratives will lag. The plumbing won't. The question to watch isn't which chain gets the loudest attention. It's which systems can support real routing, real liquidity, and real constraints as tokenized assets start moving at scale. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next deep dive. This channel is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and is not financial advice. Always do your own research and keep the discussion respectful. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, leaving a comment, or sharing it with a friend.